Hey friends, Randall Dupree here with Forge Point, and today as I was reading through my Maxwell Leadership Study Bible, we're coming to the end of Nehemiah. So in Nehemiah chapter 13, we learn about the law of legacy because there is no success without a successor. And so this really covers the entire chapter. It says Nehemiah chapter 13, verses 1 through 31 here. And here's what John Maxwell has to say. Even after Nehemiah returned to King Artaxerxes, he felt the necessity to follow up on the work in Jerusalem. So when he returned to visit the walled city, he learned that the people had already compromised God's statutes, and he knew that he had to do something to ensure the success of the last several months of labor. So, just a little background here. We talked in the previous chapters about how Nehemiah, he felt this call from God to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and once they did, and they did it in record time, they not only rebuilt the walls, but there was this effort from Ezra as well to rebuild the culture of Israel and to kind of bring the people back together. Previously, the temple had been rebuilt, and so there was this whole ceremony where they dedicated the walls and they read through the books of the law, the books of Moses, and they really just kind of reminded the people why they even went into exile in the first place and basically rededicated themselves as they rededicated this wall. And so now, after Nehemiah is returning to Jerusalem, he's put people in charge, and now he's come back to see that the people have already started to go back to doing things that they were doing before. And this is very common. This shows up in offices and factories and businesses all the time, where leaders come in and they roll out some new initiative, some new way of doing things, and then after time people tend to, it's almost like gravity, they tend to go back to doing things the way they were before. But good on Nehemiah, because at least he comes back to check in on what was actually happening here. Okay, so it says Nehemiah learned that when the leader is away, the people tend to stray. So consider the following problems that he encountered. Compromising companionship. So this has to do with the marrying of people from other tribes. Financial fiasco. So the way they were actually managing the resources. Secularized Sabbath. So they were doing things like selling, and there was commerce happening on the Sabbath that, according to the law, should not have been happening. And then domestic disobedience. So just disobedience of all sorts show up here. And so when Nehemiah failed to develop a strong inner circle and reproduce his vision in a team of leaders, everyone drifted. So he did a good job of actually identifying leaders to carry on, and he empowered them. But before that step, there should have been this inner circle, that he should have created a sense of a shared vision to ensure that once he left, things didn't revert to the way they were before. So he witnessed firsthand the second law of thermodynamics. Things don't wind up, they wind down. So true, unless energy is applied. A sound legacy develops only when a team has been trained and positioned to carry on. So in other words, we're learning here that there is no success without a successor, and it's not just enough to just appoint successors. We have to train and develop and build these people up and ensure that there is a shared vision first in order for that succession to be successful. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope this added value to you today. Have a blessed day.